Breaking news coming in the last couple of minutes, and it's not good news for All Elite Wrestling. The ratings are in for this past week's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS, and it's a new record low in terms of total viewership for a non-preemption episode, as well as a new record low in the 18 to 49 demographic for a non-preempted episode as well. We'll get straight into that. Plus, speaking of ratings, it was a good week for WWE. The ratings for NXT are in for this past Tuesday's episode on the USA Network. An update on the rumors of Shane McMahon possibly coming in to All Elite Wrestling. Plus, we'll let you know when WWE plans to have CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off with the developing news. The ratings are in for AEW Dynamite, and as I mentioned, it is pretty staggering news and not good news for All Elite Wrestling. The viewership numbers for the June 19th episode of AEW Dynamite on TBS have been released, and this will certainly lead to a lot of discussion among fans once more. According to WrestleNomics, the June 19th edition of AEW Dynamite drew just 502,000 viewers and achieved a rating of a 0.16 in the coveted 18 to 49 demographic. Now, this is a huge decrease from last week's show in both key metrics there, as you can see on the screen. Minus 26, down 26% from last week's number, which was 681,000 viewers. It's also down considerably in terms of the 18 to 49 demographic, down 30% from last week's 0.23 number. Now, this past week's episode of AEW Dynamite saw the Owen Hart Cup tournament progress as Pac and Chris Statlander achieved advance in their respective tournaments. Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland also had a confrontation on the show before their AEW and New Japan Forbidden Door encounter for the AEW World Championship. Now again, in terms of some other key metrics, in terms of total viewership, this episode versus the trailing 4 weeks average, it was down 32% from the average of 743,000. Now, in terms of the June 2024 total viewership average versus last year's June 2023 viewership average, it is down 24%. The average of total viewership thus far in June is 658,000. Last year, it was 862,000 around this time. So again, down considerably in key metrics. In terms of the 18 to 49 demographic, it is down 36% in terms of the trailing average of the last 4 weeks. The trailing average over the last 4 weeks was 0.25. It's down considerably, as I mentioned, from that. Now, in terms of the June average of 2024 versus June average of 2023, the key demographic rating is also down 27%. This time last year, the average was a 0.30 rating. Now, the average is a 0.22 rating. So again, not good numbers at all. And really across the board, in any kind of demographic you can think of, whether it's, total viewership, whether it's 18 to 49, whether it's females age 18 to 49, males age 18 to 49, persons age 18 to 34, females 18 to 34, men 18 to 34, people 35 to 49, females 35 to 49, males 35 to 49, people that aren't in the 18 to 49 demographic. All of those different categories I've mentioned right there, AEW is down double-digit percentage in terms of last week. As I mentioned, it is a new record total viewership low for a non-preempted episode. So, of course, this episode was in its regular time slot and did have a slight overrun. It's also a new record low when it comes to the 18 to 49 demographic, once again, for a non-preempted episode. Now, some people had thought with the number being that low that it was an error. According to WrestleNomics, Brandon Thurston is reporting that he has confirmed independently the rating measurement is not an error. That is the accurate number. In terms of competition, Dynamite was outranked in the 18 to 49 on cable by the College World Series on ESPN, that drew a 0.42, and Expedition Unknown on Discovery, that drew a 0.18. So what do you think? What's your reaction to all of this? What do you think happens now of AEW Dynamite? A record low at a time that they're negotiating with WBD over a new media rights deal. Could this come at a worse time? What do you think Tony Khan has to do to rectify what what is now appearing to be a very severe slide for All Elite Wrestling. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Now, as far as the negotiations between Warner Brothers Discovery and All Elite Wrestling right now, in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer did a deep dive on what he thinks about the new deal with Triller TV when it comes to, obviously, all of the pay-per-views being put on there, the back catalogue. Now, he cited that given the recent negotiations with Warner Brothers Discovery, it would make sense for people to assume that the pay-per-view library would be a part of whatever deal AEW is aiming for. The exclusivity window for WBD expires at the end of June, and given that the library of major events is away from Max, WBD streaming service, Meltzer doesn't see this as a positive sign regarding those talks. Now, on top of this, Meltzer believes that putting the entire pay-per-view library on a different service is surprising, as other companies who AEW may negotiate with will want the entire library for their own services, not just television. Now, the deal is reportedly not a big money deal, as there isn't significant money in selling old shows, but for negotiations, those shows would usually be key in landing a larger streaming deal. Meltzer noted that Tony Khan has been cutting costs over the past few months in order to secure the right price in the media rights negotiations. But a deal like this does send a mixed message, especially with WBD's exclusivity window expiring so soon. However, he made sure to note that it's best not to assume anything until a deal is confirmed and announced, as anything can happen even at the very last minute. So, as I said previously, what are your thoughts on the numbers? What are your thoughts on the negotiations with Warner Bros. Discovery right now? Is it time to panic for AEW, or is this just a blip? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Now, we spoke about this last week when it came to comparison between NXT and AEW. Of course, last week NXT did defeat AEW Dynamite in terms of total viewership, not the key 18 to 49 demographic, but that wasn't the case this week because NXT did soundly defeat AEW Dynamite in terms of the ratings. Now, WWE NXT has been building a lot of momentum over the past few weeks thanks to the Battleground Premium Live event, a blossoming relationship with TNA Wrestling, and the arrival of former AEW star Ethan Page. And WWE's third brand looked to continue that run of good form going into the June 18 show. However, did this week's ratings reflect that? Well, according once again to WrestleNomics, the June 18 NXT averaged a total of 724,000 viewers, marking a marginal 1% increase on the 718,000 viewers the June 11 edition of the show averaged. However, it was the key 18 to 49 demographic where NXT excelled this week, as the June 18 episode earned a 0.26. That is the highest since the November 7, 2023 episode, and an 18% increase from the 0.22 from the previous week. The 0.26 number led to NXT ranking at number 1 for all cable shows watched on June 18 and number 6 for all primetime shows, with the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs leading the way with 4.15 million viewers and a 1.13 number. Now, in terms of the quarter-hour ratings, these come once again courtesy of WrestleNomics, so shout out to them. Be sure to subscribe to their Patreon service, well worth a sub. And as you can see right there, that beginning of the show with the Battle Royal did prove dividends for WWE. The show started out with a 25-man Battle Royal to determine the number 1 contender to Trick Williams' NXT Championship, which saw the NXT debuts of TNA stars Frankie Kazarian and Joe Hendry. This match was the most viewed portion of the show, with the conclusion of the match peaking at 807,000 viewers as Javon Evans became the next challenger for the NXT Championship. Viewership would dip as the first hour went on, but went back up to 782,000 viewers at the top of the second hour, before eventually declining to a total of 670,000 viewers by the end of the second hour. However, there was a slight increase in the 5-minute overrun, meaning that the show finished with a total of 721,000 viewers. Once again, what do you make of those numbers? What do you make of those quarter-hour ratings in comparison to AEW? What do you think about the work that NXT and Shawn Michaels are doing at the moment? Let me know your thoughts about that too in the comment section below. Now, a very strange and bizarre story this week was about Shane McMahon possibly becoming All Elite. Now, Tony Khan's reaction to the recent stories that Shane McMahon has expressed interest in joining AEW have now been revealed. It was recently reported that Shane McMahon had reached out to wrestlers on AEW's roster to discuss the hypothetical possibility of working for the company. Now, Jim Ross has also previously discussed the possibility of Shane McMahon's involvement, revealing they had spoken 2 or 3 times recently, albeit without going into detail as as to what those conversations entailed. They largely surrounded Jim Ross's recent health concerns. Now, in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer has provided Tony Khan's reaction, writing, quote, "I can only say on the AEW side, people who in theory should have an inkling about it have said they've either heard nothing or they said they heard what Thompson said but heard nothing independently about it." Tony Khan's comment was, quote, "I've never met him or talked to him in my life." Now, further to the previous news story that McMahon had reached out to wrestlers on the AEW roster, Meltzer provided further detail on the contact, writing, quote, "One person noted to us that there was a conversation between McMahon and an ex-WWE talent in AEW, and it was described as not a pitch to get in or anything, just two people chatting when McMahon said something to the effect of, 'Can you imagine if I walked out there on Dynamite?' Not as if he was pitching anything." They said it wasn't serious, and that would explain why no key people in AEW had even heard of it before Thompson had talked about it. Thompson didn't talk about it seriously as if it would happen either, just that he had knowledge of the conversation. Now, of course, Shane McMahon last competed at WrestleMania back in 2023, suffering a torn quad. We haven't seen him since, but is there any possibility? Let me know your thoughts about that one too in the comment section below. And finally, some updates when it comes to SummerSlam later on this summer. Now, CM Punk, of course, suffered a torn triceps injury during the January 2024 Men's Royal Rumble match, and he's been sidelined from in-ring competition ever since. He has, however, been a thorn in the side of Drew McIntyre, including costing him the World Heavyweight Championship at Clash at the Castle in his home country of Scotland. With the pair on a collision course, Dave Meltzer has provided details of when CM Punk vs. Drew McIntyre will happen in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, writing, quote, "As noted, Punk vs. McIntyre doesn't need a title bout, but also would be stronger with one." But when Levesque decreed that the King of the Ring winner would get the SummerSlam title shot, and if the idea is McIntyre vs. Punk at SummerSlam, which it is right now pending Punk's condition, then by that logic, the finish they did was the only one they could do. Yes, they could have delayed the Gunther title match to the Berlin show and had McIntyre vs. Punk as champion, but then they may have wanted Punk to win, and it's too soon for him to win the title. The hope is that Punk vs. McIntyre will take place at SummerSlam in Cleveland, but we were told that as of right now, it's up in the air whether Punk would be ready by that date. It was emphasized to me that he could be ready, but it's not a sure thing. Punk will be making an announcement on SmackDown this week, which was teased like he would be announcing that he's cleared. Now, following his recent loss at Clash at the Castle, Drew McIntyre quit the company, we use that in quotation marks, on the June 17 Raw. Of course, SummerSlam takes place on August 3rd, 2024 in Cleveland, Ohio. As things stand, Nia Jax is scheduled to challenge Bayley for the Women's Championship. At the moment, of course, she won the Queen of the Ring tournament. Gunther is also set to challenge either Seth Rollins or Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship after he won the King of the Ring tournament as well. As far as other matches currently earmarked for the event, Dave Meltzer has provided more details on this, saying, quote, "Regarding Rhodes versus Sikoa and Logan Paul versus LA Knight, as things stand this week, both of those matches are earmarked for SummerSlam and not Money in the Bank." Now, of course, things could change. Meltzer has been wrong before, but we could be seeing the SummerSlam card already begin to take shape. But there you go, guys. The latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.